built on the basic steel frame. D minor, E major, E minor, A major. Today we're going to talk about just playing over a 2-5-1-6 in C major. We're going to combine root structure and upper structure triads for this purpose, to get through this, okay? So, 2-5-1-6 in C major. If you need the PDF, you can grab it, the link in the description. We're going to use a root structure triad for the 2 chord, okay? So D minor 7. We're going to use D minor, and we're going to add our tension 2, so we're going to turn this into our quadratonic. Brand new to Melodic Triad's approach, tension 2 just means the 2nd degree of D. So it's an E note, and it has the desire for movement. Okay, this is not just an arpeggio, this is a triad, 3 stable notes, 1 tense note that's rubbing up against it to create sort of some melodic drama. D minor tension 2. Root structure triad, meaning it's a D minor chord, D minor triad. Okay, it's built on the root of the chord. For the 5 chord G, we're going to use an upper structure triad. We're going to use one of my favorites. It's an E major triad. And we're going to add tension flat 2. So the flat 2 not of G, but of E. So that's an F note, E, F, right? Notice how stable the E note feels. That's melodic do. That's the root note of the triad. That's an E note. That's a G7 chord. So this is like polytonal, right? We're using an upper structure triad, and we're sort of stabilizing or tonicizing the 13, E, the flat 9, G sharp, and B, the 3rd. Melodically speaking, those notes are now like critical elements to this color that we're creating. Okay. When we resolve to the 1 chord to C major 7, we're going to use what we discussed yesterday in our live class. C major 7, we're going to use an E minor triad. If my sustain pedal works. Right, can you hear the C note when I play it? It sounds like it wants to pull back down to B. Because we're using the E minor triad to bring out that major 7 chord tone as opposed to the root note. If you were with us yesterday, you may know that we're going to add tension 4. So E minor, the 4 of E is A, so we're adding the A note. Anytime we add tension 4 to a minor triad in the Melodic Triad's approach, or even not in the Melodic Triad's approach, we can also add the sharp 4, which gives us the sound of the blues. Okay. Which effectively means we're allowed to play the flat 7, B flat, over a C major 7 chord. Hopefully you're hearing that, your ears interpreting that just as the sound of a bluesy line, but that's actually the flat 7 and the major 7 and the 13 and the 5th and the 3rd, but it sounds and feels like the first 2 notes of a blues scale. the 6th chord to turn us around to get back to 2. A7, we're just going to use root structure again. So A major triad, tension flat 2. Nothing overly fancy with that one. So again, I'm just going to go through and sort of in a rubato fashion, just kind of slowly play through these, just as harmonic triads, just so we can hear what we call in the Melodic Triads approach the melodic progression, right? There's a harmonic progression, a chord progression, which is D minor 7, G7, C major 7, A7, progression. There's also a melodic progression that we're working within, which is D minor, root structure, E major, E minor, A major. These are the triads that I'm going to be thinking about and looking at while I play. D minor, E major, E minor, A major. Okay, if you're still getting a handle on your triad shapes, you might just want to play that for the rest of this class and just kind of keep the volume down on this video so that you don't get disturbed by it, because you really need to be able to see these triads. D minor, E major, E minor, A major. D minor, E major, E minor, A major, D minor. Okay? This is going to sound weird when I just play it alone like this, but as soon as I put it over the chords, you'll start to hear jazz harmony coming out in my lines, because we're just playing around in the upper structure of the harmony. So when you hear it stand alone like that, it seems a little odd, and it seems intellectually like maybe it shouldn't work, but it actually will quite nicely. Nothing controversial there. D minor over a D minor chord. E major over a G7 chord. So E major, I'm going to resolve the E major triad to E minor. When I go to the C chord, the C major 7. Should make sense. That was just a little bit of chromaticism connecting two triad notes. B down to G sharp. This was over the G7 chord. I'm thinking about an E major triad. Try and avoid any chromaticism for the first few minutes of playing through this, so you can just hear the pure quadratonic, right? The pure triad plus one tension note sound. It has a really lovely sense of precision. There's a lot of integrity. It never sounds like noodling. It never sounds sort of out. It's just always, as long as you're playing it with phrases, it just always is respectful of the harmony and implies the harmony, but it never feels sort of trapped by it. It always sounds like you have something very authoritative to say, because we're limited to so few options. And we have to make the best of them, and they all sound great. Like, without us getting involved, the options, the notes themselves sound great. Chromaticism again, sorry. E major over G7 to E minor over C. It sounds like the blues. E minor triad tension 4. I'm actually playing, the chord tones of this are the 13, the flat 7, 13 flat 7, 13, 5, 3. Major third, minor third, E major, E minor. You guys following this? I'm going to add a little bit of chromaticism into this. Let me check in with you guys real quick and make sure I'm not going too fast or too slow. See if anybody has any questions. Miles, good morning, man. Good to see you. Telmo, hey, how's it going? Gary, you know I got my coffee, always. Sean, can I talk about voice leading these quadratonic? Yeah. In fact, I'm glad you asked that. Keeping me honest, keeping me on track here. I was going to get into some chromaticism, but let's hold off on the chromaticism, even if we don't get to it today. Let's talk about voice leading. The first thing I would recommend is doing what I said a few minutes ago, which is just looking at the shapes of the triads, like 3-note harmonic triads. So D minor, E major, E minor, A major. When you're practicing this, first and foremost, you want to try and use common tone voice leading, meaning we have 3 notes. When we're going, let's say, from A major back to D minor, this is A, C sharp, E. This A note is shared between A major and D minor. Okay, so not only do we want to make sure we reuse it, we want to keep it in the same voice. So if the A note is down here, ring finger, 4th fret, 7th string, we want to keep it in the same voice. Okay? This is good sort of harmonic voice leading. I tend to think that learning to voice lead melodically, it's really helpful to start harmonically because you can actually see the shapes, and then from here, you know I'm not a big fan of just arpeggiating things, but from here, I can just look at these 2 shapes and just play a couple of notes from one, a couple of notes from the other, or 1 note from the first, 1 note from the second, it doesn't matter. Sit on that A note and let it hold over both chords. So common tone voice leading is the easiest one to spot and probably most important to get used to. When it comes to chords that don't have common tone together, like D minor to E major, they don't share a common tone. Any chords that are a step apart, a half step or a whole step, it's like impossible for them to have common tones because everything is 1 note away. So I sort of follow, I sometimes talk about the book, this Tchaikovsky book I have, Practical Guide to Harmony, that he wrote for his students when he was teaching at a university or some kind of music academy in Russia. And he talks about this idea of always voice leading against the grain. So D minor, D to E is going up, D up to E. If we go up, we get a lot of parallel movement, which is okay, but he always recommends in those situations to voice lead to a different inversion against the grain. So instead of going from D up to E, he would recommend going down So D minor down to E major. That way we get, it's not as parallel sounding. It's a little bit, it changes the intervals. So here we get a half step down, A down to G sharp. Here we get D down to B, so now it's a minor third, which sounds a lot more intriguing to the ear than this. Parallel fourths. That's the top note, F down to E, so we get these two notes going down in half steps, and this note going down in a minor third. So it's just an interesting mixture of intervals. Going from E major to E minor, just drop the third. E minor to A major has common tone. Doing that kind of work and starting to see those movements just in little chunks around the fretboard, and then starting to pull melody out of them. Another thing I like to do that I recommend is playing like 1 to 2 notes per chord, because then you have no riffs to rely on. No lines, no muscle memory, no vocabulary. All you get is good voice leading. That's the only thing you're allowed to think about when you only get 1 to 2 notes, because that's the only place to go, is to think about where you're headed next and how to get there efficiently. So a good game to work on once you do that kind of preliminary work, Sean, and maybe we'll just wrap up with this because we still get a little bit of time, is to try and hold on to one very simple idea, like really simple idea, and to carry it through the different melodic triads and quadratonics here. That was, could you guys hear that? Be ba da dum, be ba da dum, be ba bum bum, be ba bum. Have to do it with the chords. I'm adding the chords because I don't feel like setting up my loop pedal quite yet. I might do that in a minute. But it would be much easier with a looping pedal. Okay, if you want to work on solo guitar playing and balancing comping and improvisation at the same time, you can do it this way. Otherwise, started to get into heavy doses of chromaticism and leading tones towards the end, so chances are good that you probably couldn't even hear triads in my lines for the second half of it. I was trying to be very obvious about my triad use at the beginning, and then I was intentionally attempting to kind of take you from very obvious to a little bit obvious to, wait, are those triads, to I don't hear anything except phrases. That was my sort of goal. It is a process. If you're new at the Melodic Triads approach, I think aiming for the latter half of what I was playing at the beginning is wasting your time. You're just going to frustrate yourself. The goal at the beginning should be, can you play your basic triads? Can you see those primary tension notes? We can add other tension notes. In fact, I did. Maybe I shouldn't have, but I did because I practiced them and my ear hears them and I just wanted them in my lines, so I went with it. We can add other tension notes, but the quadratonic, the primary tension note, right, the triad +1, unlocks all the color we really need to imply harmony while playing melodic ideas. And just being able to voice lead those triads and see those tension notes and take advantage of them melodically. That's all pure quadratonic, no leading tones, no chromaticism. That will get you just playing really lovely lyrical phrases, a la Chet Baker, Jim Hall, kind of early Miles type stuff. If you're not getting it right away, that's fine. Like, it can take some time to, if you're not used to thinking in terms of triads, and if you're a scale player or a chord tone runner, it would make sense that this would be a little challenging. But it really doesn't take a lot of information or practice topics to get that type of playing happening. And then once you can see that, then hang with us on our Monday Triad Mastery Bootcamp class, take one of the bootcamp programs, start inserting chromaticism, coming up with ideas on your own. Then you can start playing kind of anything you want to within them, because you'll have the steel frame of the building built for you. Let me check in real quick and see if I missed any quick questions that I can hit before we wrap up for the day. Again, I don't know why it does this. It says there's 12 comments and it shows me 4. So thanks, Facebook. Gary, I appreciate that, man. Thank you. Always great to hang with you. And I hope I get to hear you play again sometime soon. Sean, you're welcome. And thank you. I'm glad you dig it. Daniel, what a beautiful sound. It's like a wine, and it's, like aging wine. Killer, yeah, I love it. I mean, that's kind of the whole idea, is to try and get the sound of a seasoned musician as quickly as possible. And you guys know, that's my whole thing, right? I was gigging in New York, I had the master's degree, I was hanging with Sko and Peter and Kurt and my heroes, and then I had some health issues and I forgot how to play, and I didn't forget my theory, thankfully, and I didn't lose my my inner sense of time, also thankfully, but I lost all my muscle memory, I lost, all that stuff was gone, and I was 35, and I didn't want to be 50 by the time I'd gone back through the whole standard jazz guitar curriculum that everyone says to do. I wanted to get back to just playing music. Whether or not I could run my scales at 300 beats per minute, I could care less about. I just want to be able to go out and gig again. If I can figure out the rest along the way while I'm playing the music, then I didn't care. So my goal was, how can I get back to sounding like a seasoned pro as quickly as possible? And to me, that meant my time was strong, fortunately. If your time's not strong, none of this is going to work. You have to work on your time. So my priorities were, how do I just get really authoritative sounding, precise melody, strong phrases. At the beginning, there was no chromaticism or leading tones in what I was doing. It was pure quadratonics, all of Stefan Harris's concepts. How do I get that happening? And how do I get some interesting harmonic stuff happening? You know, passing chords. I wasn't really concerned with all my drop two inversions again. I just wanted harmony. Those of you who are in the study group and have access to the tonality vault, you know that like all these ideas can turn into very pianistic harmony, which I love, but we're not talking about that today, because today's just about improvising. So I'm glad that comes across, Daniel, because that's kind of the point of all this. That's the first point, and then the second point is that because it's so simple, there's no complicated theory happening, it leaves a huge amount of room for growth and exploration and evolution, right? Root structure triads, we can move in upper structure triads. We can add in leading tones and chromaticism. We can add in additional tension notes. We can turn these into 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12 note scales. We can do all kinds of things, but it's all built on the basic steel frame. D minor, E major, E minor, A major. Okay, this is not the only melodic progression I would ever use, ever, but it is a really nice one that I was messing with yesterday after our class. So you guys should try it. Root structure, D minor, E major, E minor, over the C major 7 chord, and then A major. Got it? I'll see you guys tomorrow for how chords move. Happy practicing.